Welcome back to Amerisogyny. I'm your host, Hannah Blue. You're listening to episode 79. Hold my mama bear. Listeners, I'm back. A little sooner than I expected, but it's for a good cause and a community that I love, the autism community. RFK pissed off a lot of folks when he made disgusting remarks about kids diagnosed with autism. Now, this isn't going to be a long episode. I can't stomach talking about him for long. But when I heard what he said, I had to respond. Otherwise, what have I been doing for over 20 years if I ignored it? Autism is not a community you leave. You're in it for life. Autism is a spectrum. Not everyone is the same. Strengths and weaknesses are specific to the individual. They should never be used to rank any disability by a hierarchy. Let's get into what he said, and then I'll cover what I think some people missed. I'll give you a hint. We've talked about it on the show before. The Eugenics Movement. On April 16th, he got his beady eyes in front of a camera and made the following remarks. He says, autism is an epidemic, and he promised to identify the environmental causes responsible for it. He's an anti-vaxxer, and he said before that vaccines are the cause of autism, even though science has proven over and over they are not. According to Kennedy, this epidemic denial has become a feature in mainstream media. I would like to note a top vaccine scientist from the FDA resigned, and he cited it was due to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s misinformation and lies. There's been a lot of that going around. Here's what he said that made the rest of us who know and love people with autism absolutely furious. Autism destroys families, and more importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which is our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. They are kids who will never pay taxes, never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. Let's go back to when he said these are children who should not be suffering like this. I want you to keep the eugenics movement in your minds as I'm speaking. There's a reason he said that. Now, despite decades of years dedicated to researching autism, Kennedy says he hopes to have answers for the cause of autism by September. If that doesn't tell you he doesn't know anything about autism, I don't know what will. Zachary Warren is a pediatric psychiatrist at Vanderbilt University, and here's what they said. We may have hundreds, if not thousands, of different neurogenic factors that in combination with complicated environmental interactions influence presentations of autism. As a clinician, I wish I had better and, quite frankly, simpler answers for my families. But autism isn't a single thing. It is a word we use in an attempt to capture a spectrum of behavioral strengths, differences, and vulnerabilities in order to help optimally support children. And he's absolutely right. I've shared before on this podcast, my daughter had a seizure at 18 months, and it totally wiped out everything. Speech, her ability to go to the bathroom. We had to feed her. We had to teach her everything. How to go to the potty again, how to feed herself. We put her in OT. We put her in outpatient speech therapy in addition to speech therapy that she received in the schools. Everything was restored except her ability to speak. Over the years, on and off, it would return. She'd say things like ball, go to the store, She called me mama one time when she was 13. But then an influx of seizures would start again, and it would wipe out everything, just like a computer. Over 20-something years later, I still don't have the answers, other than it may be a combination of genetics and environmental factors. The chief pediatric neurologist, Dr. Mohammed Makati at Duke University, sat me down and said, "Miss Hannah, we don't know what happened to ISIS." And I had to accept that. Now we have an idiot who was appointed by another idiot to be the Health and Human Services Secretary for our country. How scary is that? There were a lot of parents that reacted to his nonsense. One of them was actress Holly Robinson Peete, who posted, "My 27-year-old son with autism didn't destroy our family. He gave us purpose and unity. Oh, and he pays taxes." Now, someone took offense to that. I'm guessing it's because maybe their children cannot pay taxes. There are a lot of children who fit the mold that RFK said, but that does not mean they are any less relevant than the people who have been diagnosed with autism and have gone on to earn degrees, have great careers, and do contribute financially to society. I want to make that very clear. They are just as relevant as any other kid who has grown up to do these things. Period. Now, I think Holly had a great response to the people who pushed back and said, "Well, he's not talking about your child." She said, "I advocate for hundreds of FAMs over the years all across the spectrum. It's not just about my son." That's true. We cannot afford to separate ourselves because this is a man who was appointed by a president who thinks all people with disabilities have no inherent worth. I want you to listen to what I'm saying. Let's go back to Nazi Germany, okay? Do you really think they murdered all the Jews that didn't pay taxes or didn't have jobs or were poor? No. They picked a single group of people and said, "We're going to exterminate them." Now, here's another thing I said on this podcast. Whether you like it or not, history is history and facts are facts. Nazi Germany got their ideas right here in the United States of America. In a previous episode, I told you about all the sterilizations that were going on in this country, with California being the number one state to do it. Yeah, they're still paying people for that. I also covered people being locked up in asylums all across this country. You know, when it stopped during the late 90s, early 2000s, I want you to think about when this country was founded and how long people were institutionalized against their will. This is what RFK is leading to. When he says, "Oh, these children shouldn't have to suffer," that should scare you to your core. That's not misinformation, and it's not fear-mongering. You need to understand the minds of these monsters that are controlling our country. They are sick and remorseless. And for him to stand up there in front of all those people and act like he's such a pillar of the community, it makes me sick. His daddy, Robert F. Kennedy, is rolling in his grave. He is nothing like his daddy. And while he wants to demonize kids with autism, let's talk about some of the things he's done, shall we? I've already said he's an anti-vaxxer, and he's promoted the line that vaccinations cause autism. According to media, he has falsely stated that HIV, if left untreated, originated from a vaccination program. He invoked Hitler when speaking out against vaccine mandates. He said, "Even in Hitler Germany, you could cross the Alps into Switzerland. You could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. I visited in 1962 East Germany with my father and met people who had climbed the wall and escaped. So it was possible. Many died, true, but it was possible. And that made people angry because it seemed as if he was saying things were better for people who were alive during the Holocaust than they are today, which is absolutely disgusting. Just this year, in February 2025, a child died from measles. Well, he acted as if it was no big deal. Here's what Kennedy said. Measles has a very, very low infection fatality rate. And instead of encouraging vaccinations, he wants to rely on things such as cod liver oil and vitamin A. What's even scarier, people are listening to him. He's also a bigot. In July 2023, he said COVID was created to spare Jews and Chinese people because they're the most immune to the virus. Now, he tried to backtrack and say that he never suggested that the COVID-19 virus was targeted to spare Jews. Well, that's what a coward does when they're caught in the crossfire. They backtrack. But we're not done. He has also blamed gender dysphoria on chemicals in the environment. Kennedy has a podcast. Can you believe it? And in June 2022, he said he wants to pursue just one question on these endocrine disruptors because we're seeing these impacts that people suspect are very different than in ages past about sexual identification among children and sexual confusion, gender confusion. Is it a shock that he's transphobic? Before he was appointed, a woman tried to save America. The daughter of President John F. Kennedy and cousin to RFK, she wrote a letter and she called him a predator who holds hypocritical and dangerous medical views. But of course, the orange wasn't going to listen to a woman. We all know he thinks that we're stupid and only good for sex. Let's get into what Ms. Kennedy said. I have known Bobby my whole life, and it's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets because he himself is a predator. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were the centers of action where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in the blender to feed his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. Caroline said he is now addicted to attention and power, profiting off his damaging crusade against vaccination. But get this, he vaccinated his own kids. So in addition to being a druggy anti-vax, guess what? He's also a cheater. Allegedly, Kennedy had a sexting affair with Olivia Nuzzi. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but who cares? She cheated with a married man. Kennedy's wife is Cheryl Hines. Did you guys see when Trump ignored her outstretched hand? Ooh, how humiliating. And RFK didn't bat an eyelash. It's no surprise he's just one more person in that administration that has zero respect for women. And not only did he cheat on her, he cheated in his first two marriages to Emily Black and Mary Richardson. In 2013, the New York Post published Kennedy's sex diary, and it revealed he cheated on Richardson repeatedly. And the woman was so heartbroken, she died by suicide in 2013. Allegedly, Kennedy wrote that he struggled with his lust demons and wrote that he had sexual encounters with at least 16 women. What a whore. And get this. According to Vanity Fair, Kennedy was accused of sexually assaulting his kid's babysitter in 1998. And of course, he's denying it. Now, should we feel sorry for good old Cheryl? No, because she was well aware that he was a cheat when she met him. She was one of the side chicks while he was still married to Richardson. But she had the nerve to be blindsided when he cheated on her. Nuzzi is a journalist in New York, and allegedly Kennedy vowed to impregnate her. Ugh. Yeah, I'm being petty, but you can read all of this for yourself. If he had not come for the kids, I wouldn't have come for him. This is what happens when the wrong people run the country. The fact that he was appointed to the Secretary of Health and Human Services should be absolutely scary for everybody. Many Americans describe their mental health as a dumpster fire. That's the reason I don't talk about this administration on my podcast, but he came for kids with autism. So I had to speak up because I've been standing with them for so long. It's a lifetime appointment. I've said that on this podcast. Once you become an advocate, it is a lifetime job. There are no breaks. You make very few friends along the way. But in the end, if you're not willing to stand for something, then you'll fall for anything. And with that, I'm out of time. If you learned anything in today's episode, feel free to follow me. By now, you know where. Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Samsung, and more. Tomorrow is April 19th, and there's going to be a lot of folks protesting all across America. I'm looking forward to that. And the reviews are still coming in for my Platerius trilogy. If you have not picked it up, please do. On May 1st, my Codarius series will be dropping, so be sure to get your copy of that. And on June 1st, Book 2 will drop. And if you live in the following countries, Australia, Austria, Canada, Luxembourg, South Korea, or Switzerland, be sure to visit www.dlhannah.com and pick up your copy from a local bookstore. Now in the U.S., you can get it on Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, or Kobo. And Kobo only sells my ebooks. Be easy. I will be back with episode 80, baby. Can you believe the Amerisogyny podcast has reached 80 episodes? That's a milestone in my book. I thank you for all of your support. And again, I know things are tough, but I want you to do everything in your power to protect your peace and mental health. And stay tuned for episode 80 coming soon. Be easy. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves. And as always, God